On the island of Sicily, you will find a gravestone with an intriguing inscription. It reads, Flamma Secutor, lived 30 years, fought 34 times, won 21 times, fought to a draw 9 times. Assyrian by nationality. You might not know it, but you're looking at the gravestone of arguably the greatest gladiator who ever lived. Flamma, meaning flame, was a soldier in the Syrian army. Captured by the Romans, he was sold into slavery and thrown into the gladiator arena. It was here that he found his true calling. Fighting as a secutor, Flamma wore a big metal helmet and wielded a Roman gladius, a legendary short sword. His main opponent was the retiarius, an agile and highly skilled fighter armed with a trident and a net. The retiarius, or netman, would trap his opponents with his weighted net and then use his trident to skewer them. Alternatively, he could entangle his opponent's weapon with his net. But Flamma, as a secutor, meaning pursuer, hunted his opponent down like a sword-wielding Mike Tyson, dodging the net and the long reach of the trident to tear his opponent apart with his gladius. Flamma was so successful and talented in the arena that he quickly became a celebrity, even appearing on the face of a Roman coin. But what was truly extraordinary was that he received the rudis, a wooden sparring sword symbolizing freedom, not once, but 4 times, and each time he turned it down. Retirement from this brutal and often fatal sport wasn't his thing. Eat your heart out, Russell Crowe. Interestingly, recent studies have suggested that gladiators were mostly vegetarians. So, Flamma might have been the toughest vegetarian of all time. There have been countless warriors throughout history, but what makes one truly great and legendary? Is it their fighting prowess, their bravery, or what they use their skills to accomplish? Or perhaps it's someone who regularly confronts death and masters their form of fighting, with accomplishments that stand out even today. History is filled with legendary warriors. Leonidas I of Sparta, who led 300 Spartans against Xerxes. Epaminondas, who fought in 126 battles and never lost. Prince Rupert of the Rhine, whose enemies believed he had supernatural abilities. Simon Bolivar, who rode 123,000 kilometers during his campaigns, more than Hannibal, Napoleon, and Alexander the Great. The bravery of the Anzac troops led German commander Erwin Rommel to say, "If I had to take hell, I would use the Australians to take it and the New Zealanders to hold it." Among all these incredible warriors, some are so unique that they stand out. Mongolia, for example, has produced some of the most savage and gifted warlords the world has ever known. The Mongolian Empire is the largest contiguous empire in history, largely due to the unstoppable aggression of Ghengis Khan. Mongolians have historically been unmatched archers on horseback, able to rival far more technologically advanced foes. That's why when a woman emerges from their hordes and starts handing them their asses, it's time to take notice. Khutulun was a 13th century Mongolian warrior princess, the great-granddaughter of Ghengis Khan, niece of Kublai Khan, and the favorite child of Kaidu, ruler of the Chagatai Khanate. She was one he regularly sought out for advice and counsel. Like most Mongolian warriors, she was adept at horse riding and archery, often riding side by side with her father in battle, taking captives on horseback as she raided enemy towns. But what made Khutulun stand out was something far more unique. Alongside being able to fire an arrow while hanging off the side of a horse, Mongolian warriors were also fearsome wrestlers, and she was perhaps the best of them all. Khutulun often dressed in men's outfits and challenged enormous warriors to a match, always winning. When her father attempted to marry her off, Khutulun refused, telling him she would not marry any man who could not best her in wrestling. Amused at his daughter's spirit, Kaidu set up a competition. If a man could defeat Khutulun, he could marry her. If he failed, he had to give her 100 horses. Men came from all corners of Mongolia to face her in combat. Her father watched as her would-be suitors faced her one by one, but by the end of the competition, Khutulun remained unmarried and had 10,000 more horses to her name. Marco Polo himself recorded one such fight, describing a wealthy, handsome prince who was sure to be her husband. When the fight began, The two warriors went back and forth, each gaining the upper hand. But without warning, Khutulun shifted her position, gained leverage, and slammed the prince to the ground, silencing the once excited crowd. Despite conflicting reports of her love life, no official records indicate she ever married. Through her legendary wrestling, fighting skill, and bravery, Khutulun brought so much respect and wealth to her family that her father wanted her to be the next Khan. When her father died, Mongolian tradition dictated that his heir would be his strongest child. No prizes for guessing who that was. Although it is unclear how she died or why she never came to rule, one thing is apparent in her story. There has never been a warrior quite like Khutulun. Now everyone knows the cliché of the lone samurai warrior. But what if I told you there was a real guy just like this? Miyamoto Musashi was a samurai ronin who wandered Japan in the 16th and 17th centuries, killing the most dangerous enemies he could find. His fighting ability was so legendary that even now he is considered the Kensei, or sword saint of all Japan. Born in the Harima province, Musashi was trained in the art of the sword by his father and the family art of the jite, an ancient Japanese police weapon. He was soon moved to a Buddhist monastery where he learned Buddhism, which he would later return to in his life. Bold and talented, at age 13, he faced his first opponent, Arima Kihei, a swordsman along the banks of the Saho River. Musashi, eager to test himself, charged Kihei, struck him with his cane, and challenged him to a duel. Kihei responded with a slash of his sword, but Musashi was too close and tackled the man to the floor, beating him to death with 14 to 15 blows of his cane. After this, Musashi traveled around Japan, engaging in more and more duels in what was known as Musha Shugyo, meaning Samurai Warrior's Quest. He also fought in the famous Battle of Sekigahara, where it is suggested he refused to fight as his lord's vassal, becoming a true ronin, a masterless samurai. This marked the beginning of his most legendary duels. Musashi gained a reputation as a master swordsman and was awarded the title Unrivaled Under Heaven by Shogun Ashikaga Yoshimasa. He challenged Yoshioka Seijuro, the master of the Yoshioka fighting school, to a duel. Using the customs of the day to his advantage, Musashi deliberately arrived late, enraging Seijuro. When the duel began, Musashi swiftly struck, hitting his opponent on the left shoulder, knocking him out, and crippling his left arm. With leadership of the school passing to Yoshioka Denshichiro, an equally deadly swordsman, Musashi was challenged to another duel to restore honor to the school. Musashi accepted. The duel took place in Kyoto. Denshichiro arrived wielding a long staff reinforced with steel. Musashi, arriving late again, threw his opponent into a rage, disarmed him, and defeated him. The school's leadership then fell to a 12-year-old boy, Yoshioka Matashichiro. The school assembled a small band of swordsmen, archers, and musketeers, challenging Musashi to another duel. But Musashi had arrived early and hid in nearby bushes. He sprang into action, attacking his opponents. Matashichiro was almost immediately slain. Musashi escaped, defending himself against archers, musket fire, and pursuing swordsmen. Forced to draw his second sword, he successfully escaped, inventing his own unique style of samurai fighting called Niten Ichi Ryu, fighting with two swords. His most legendary duel was yet to come. After fighting over 60 duels and never once tasting defeat, Musashi faced his equal, Sasaki Kojiro, the demon of the western provinces. A duel was arranged on the island of Ganryujima. Sasaki, wielding a nodachi, a huge Japanese sword, waited for Musashi. Arriving late, Musashi swaggered up with a wooden sword carved from his boat's oar. The fight began. Sasaki struck, but Musashi dodged, then countered, killing Sasaki with a blow to the head and chest. Later in life, Musashi retired to a cave, writing his legendary text, The Book of Five Rings. He imparted his wisdom with quotes like, "Know the smallest things and the biggest things, the shallowest things and the deepest things. Be detached from desire your whole life long. You may abandon your own body, but you must preserve your honor." These words still resonate today. Musashi was undefeated in his 61 duels, an unsurpassed record.